Welcome back to a brand new Civ 6. Joe Biden just called me and determined it is Jover. It is now known as a Civilization 6 tier list. And today we aren't using the regular, faces, Civ icons, in-game virgin tier list. We're going to be using the average TheCivLifeR subscriber GigaChat tier list where everyone's bodies are on full display for us to look at them like slabs of meat. Now you might be thinking where I got this from. I did not make it. This dude Beardly Whiplash made the Civilization 6, he says rankings based on nothing particular at all, but it is the fuckability tier list, as you can tell from the raunchy emojis he has over here, and honestly, I might have to intervene. No problems with S tier. I have a few problems with F tier, mainly because Chinchy Wang's armor is alone to put him in B tier, but he has Guitarja and Poland in the A tier, so it's pretty obvious he is much more of a booty than a booba type of guy, if you will, but the moderators did remove this post, so, average Reddit moderators, I suppose, but let me know down below in the pinned comment if you want me to do, for the good of humanity, I suppose, fuckability tier list of my own. This tier list right here might be the most important one humanity has ever seen, not just in tier list or YouTube videos, but as a research proposal in general, in my opinion. This right here is going to change the course of humanity forever, and it is which civ is most likely to appear in Civilization 7, which leader is most likely to appear in Civilization 7. We're going to be go through... Excuse me, English is kind of a tough language, especially when you're lacking brain cells like I am, but we're going to be going through every single leader and determining whether they will make it into Civilization 7 or not, and also that, of course, depends on numerous circumstances, how popular the leader is, whether the leader is a male or a female, because, let's face it, at the end of the day, they are going to be trying to add in more females, because that's just how the culture has developed, I guess, in their main market. Not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, but it is something that we have to definitely take into account. So, someone like Victoria or Elizabeth is a lot higher likelihood to make it, because they're pretty well-known female leaders, as opposed to somebody like, maybe even Cyrus, who, despite being well-known himself, isn't, I guess, on the same level as the other two, or even Cleopatra for that matter, and is less likely to make it in as opposed to the others. Whatever the case may be, getting my Twitter canceled all aside, we're going to be going through each one, and of course it depends on the civ they are in. For example, I don't think Nubia's coming back in Civ 7, I don't think the Khmer are coming back, but I promise you America's coming back in Civilization 7. Civilization 7 doesn't include America, I will literally goat-see my booty hole live on my Discord, which you'll find linked in the pinned comment. Whatever the case may be, let's start with Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln, I think there is a probable likelihood you will see him in Civilization 7. Now, I'm not going to make a sort of goatsy bet like I did with America, but I do believe that if he doesn't make it into Civilization 7, then, well, I guess we riot after that. There really isn't too much to say. Next leader's going to be Alexander. This one you can absolutely book it. If they don't include Alexander, I'm going to eat my own shirt before eating my own feces. There's absolutely zero shot they don't include him. He's Macedon. He's not necessarily Greek, so maybe they decide to go with an old geezer Pericles, or maybe go back with Gorgo if people want her back, which I'm not sure why you wouldn't. If I wanted to ever be sat on by somebody, it would definitely be her, but Alexander is in all likelihood going to make it, whether it be a DLC or an actual game, I guess. Next up is Nubia. Ain't no way. There is no way. You know what? I don't think Nubia comes back as a civ, let alone a Minotaur. Divine intervention is required in order for Nubia to make it into Civilization 7. One of those civs where I guess they cycle through every sort of like civ game, I suppose. Not necessarily a well-known civilization, not one that's going to be pushing the market books, as were to speak. I guess there is a possibility. There's also a possibility that I go ahead and blow up the Eiffel Tower tomorrow. It's not impossible, but in Minecraft, of course, although that defense seems to have been watered down over the last couple of months, but again, there's just no way Nubia is going to make it in Civ 7, let alone a Minotaur. Next up is Ambiorix in Gaul. Listen, this guy's claim to fame is getting his ass beat by Caesar, literally getting genocided by Julius Caesar after starting a rebellion. I don't even know why he was in Civilization 6, if I'm being being completely honest with you. Like, I could go ahead tomorrow, take control of goddamn Somalia or some shit, and then just get absolutely genocided by Ethiopia, and I'd have a higher claim to fame than Ambiorix at this point. He does have some nice pussy mustache lips, though. I will give him that. On the drip tier list, he would most definitely be in the B tier at least. But, yeah, divine intervention in order to get him back in Civ 7. When it comes to Basil, there's ain't no way. He's not coming back. You have so many other Byzantine leaders like Justinian, Theodora, if they do want a woman leader that not a lot of people would be too mad about. And there just really isn't any reason for Basil to come back in Civ 7. Of course, his design in Civilization 6 has undoubtedly turned numerous people gay, and numerous lesbians straight as well. I mean, when you look at that DILF bod, I don't know how your ship doesn't start setting sail at full mast, but aside from that, I do think that he's just one of these one-and-done type of leaders, and he's not coming back in the next game. Batrio is next. I don't know if Vietnam's going to be a civ in the next one. It might be. Although if they are, they might add someone like Ho Chi Minh and have his leader ability be like America's prostate examiner. Whenever America's in the game, you immediately contract a medical degree and have the ability to stick your finger up whoever America's leading and press their prostate to make them ejaculate immediately. There's no way she's coming back, and if Vietnam does come back, I think they're going to go for another leader. I know there was another woman leader who, I remember the only thing I remember about her is her Wikipedia page has her titties out completely. They were fairly saggy, I'm not gonna lie, so I don't know if that meets the Civilization 7 standards that the Firaxis team are looking to accomplish, but I think they would probably pick her over Batrio at this point, just because Batrio's already been in Civilization 6. And I think I do have to reiterate, just to keep the cancellations at a minimum, I'm not saying that, women shouldn't be in Civilization 7. I'm not saying that, go woke, go broke, L plus ratio plus you're not fucking white or whatever. But I am saying that, especially with today's climate, that if you find a good woman leader, they're absolutely going to include her in. At least that's from my perspective on how the media has developed, which I think overall is a good thing, especially unless you're France, because of course then we don't have Napoleon. Someone like Vietnam, Nubia, Carthage, for example. England, of course, is always going to have a female leader because they got like 3 S-tier woman leaders as opposed to pretty much coin flip on the male ones. But yeah, overall, I'm just saying that it's more likely that a woman leader is going to lead a civ if there is a good woman one. So yeah, please keep those comments nice and non-sexist or homophobic or whatever. I don't want to lose my YouTube channel. Thank you. Whatever the case may be, Catherine Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsteel Dimmadome, there's no way she's coming back in Civ 7. There is absolutely zero chance. You've seen the thumbnail. If they don't bring Napoleon back, I'm going to have to personally intervene. I'm kidding, by the way. Don't send the FBI after me. But there are so many other French leaders that they could choose. Catherine de Medici wasn't technically a French leader, I don't think. Not exactly well-versed in my Victoria era French history, I suppose, but there's no way she comes back because there are so many other leaders, and just her being included in general, I think, stirred up like a civil war in the Civ 6 subreddit. I don't know, I wasn't a part of it when Civ 6 came out, but I think they'll probably pick someone like Napoleon or one of the 54 or 57 Louis who ruled over France. Next up is going to be Chad Regupta. Chad Regupta's not coming back. He is not coming back at all. There's no way. India is such a rich and developed history that you could probably have like 50,000 leaders you could pick from. And of course, they're just probably going to pick Gandhi. You know what? Where the fuck's Gandhi? Gandhi's coming back. Gandhi's coming back. If Gandhi doesn't come back, then I'm just going to run around the streets naked, begging, streets of Chicago, begging people to run a train on me. That's yeah, you know what? We're going to do that. I will run naked down the streets of Chicago. At night, I'll go down Chirac and scream, run a train on me, and then I'll scream like fucking Crips or Bloods or whatever the opposite is of what they're affiliated with over there. What I'm trying to say is Gandhi's coming back in Civ 7. There's no way he's not. Cleopatra's next. I think there's a probable likelihood. Everyone knows who Cleopatra is. Everyone knows who Cleopatra is. Like, if you don't know Cleopatra, you either don't know English, or you, honestly, like most people, even if you don't know English, you probably know Cleopatra. Cleopatra's probably coming back just because of how popular she is, and how she could be like a cover person for Civ 7. Like, she could be like the headliner. Like, if you put someone like Gatarja, or Harold, or Hojo Tokimoon, or even Peter, honestly, on the front cover of Civ 7, people might just buy it because they have no idea who the fuck's on the cover and they want to find out. You want people like Abe Lincoln, Cleopatra, you know, Gandhi. Those are the cover people. Those are like the super duper stars. You know, you want LeBron on the cover. You don't want Kawhi Leonard on the cover type of thing. Next up is Cyrus. I think Cyrus is a one-hit wonder. They could bring him back, although they could also bring back any of the other 50,000 Persian leaders throughout history. It would definitely kill me if they brought in like the Ayatollah leader or the current leader of Iran right now and had him lead Persia. I would absolutely laugh at that, and there's no way they do that. If they do, I will honestly be shocked. But again, there are so many leaders to choose from. Cyrus is a one-hit wonder. Dido, though, Dido might be different. Dido was there in Civ 5 and Civ 6, and again, is a marketable leader a lot of people know about, and a marketable Civ a lot of people know about. Again, I don't know if you would want to add Hannibal since he was technically a general. I think there's a probable likelihood she comes back. Like, you could add someone like Hannibal, but he wasn't technically a leader, and then, like, if you're doing, like, Phoenicia and not necessarily Carthage, although I guess they're both fairly similar in the grand scheme of things, you would probably want Dido back. Most people know who she is, and again, same thing with Hannibal. Like, he didn't get his people genocided, but the other Phoenician leaders got, like, they just bent over and took it from the Romans. That's honestly the least graphic way I can explain it. Like, avert your eyes, don't search up Phoenician history unless you actually want to see some sort of assault, one of the 50 types of assaults going on. But yeah, if Phoenicia's coming back, it's going to be someone who's actually, like, built up Phoenicia, I think, and Dido would be the most likely of that option. Next up is Eleanor, Divine Intervention. I had no idea who Eleanor was before, and I do not think she's going to come back. They added her, I think, just because of the, how do you say it? Just because there's two civs, I completely lost the word about it. Excuse me, I've just woken up. I'm pretty much off like 50 milligrams on caffeine right now. That's what's keeping me up and making the video right now. But a gimmick, that's what the name is. It was a gimmick to help the sort of two, like before her, we didn't really have a leader leading two civs. That sort of broke it, and so that was a gimmick, and I think that's the only reason they picked her. Angevin Empire, Angevin, whatever, it was like English France for like 2 days or whatever before it got reconquered by France. At the end of the day, Eleanor is not coming back unless they redo the gimmick. Even then, they'd probably pick somebody else. Next up's Elizabeth. Elizabeth's probably book it. Elizabeth is most definitely coming back. There's no way she doesn't. I think she's been leader for like 8 Civ games at this point, and the only way they wouldn't pick Elizabeth is if they decided to pick Victoria again. Victoria's probable coming back because I think they're going to do the multiple leaders in Civ 7 like they did in Civ 6. Because of that, I think both of them are going to come and lead England, even though I'd want Henry IV, whoever it was that decided to, I guess, put a condom on before entering France and taking like half their lands or whatever. I think it was Henry IV. It could have been the 6th. Not exactly well versed in medieval English history, but I'd love it if they picked him, but if I have to be honest, it's probably going to be Elizabeth and Victoria again, just because they were overall just better leaders. Yeah, it's pretty much it. Next up's Frederick Barbarossa. There's no way he comes back. Divine intervention required. Frederick Barbarossa wasn't even the leader of Germany. He was the leader of the Holy Roman Empire. That's like saying, like, fucking, I don't even know. That's like saying fucking Zelensky's the leader of Russia in Civilization 7. That's just two completely different things that really don't make sense overall. The only thing is, like, historically, they were, like, a part of the same country. But, again, Frederick Barbarossa, if they do a Holy Roman Empire, they'd probably pick a Habsburg. Of course, when they decide to add a Habsburg in a Civilization game, it's probably going to be a that's probably actually why they didn't add a Habsburg in Civ 6. I don't think the engine would be able to process the ginormous chin required. You'd probably not even have to spend a lot of money on artistry or animation or anything, because that chin would take up most of the later screen. Wouldn't need to show like the rest of their body. But yeah, it's probably going to be the next Holy Roman leader in Civ 7. And if they go Germany, just going to pick Bismarck, or they're going to pick maybe even someone like Ludwig, or maybe they're not going to pick Ludwig, but somebody like one of the Wilhelms, probably the first, considering the second was kind of a dumbass, honestly, even more so than me, which is saying something. Genghis Khan's coming back in Civ 7. You have to include Mongolia in a... You know what? If Genghis Khan doesn't come back, I delete my channel. Genghis Khan... if Genghis Khan doesn't come back, I am going to go online and throw out, like, numerous racial slurs and just get me completely tarnished reputationally forever. I'll post my picture with the racial slurs. You know what? If Genghis Khan doesn't come back, I'm going to make a video saying EDP was in the right when he... Okay, maybe not that. Maybe not that. The point is, Genghis Khan is coming. They have to include Mongolia. And if they're going to include Mongolia, they're going to include Genghis just for the marketability alone, and also the fact that you blinked and this guy made the greatest empire, the largest empire in world history. Genghis is coming back. You can book it. Gilgamesh probably wasn't even a real leader, so he probably isn't coming back. Sumeria is a pretty nice civ, but it isn't one too many people are familiar with, and I don't think that civ is coming back in general. Guitarja, I think, is ain't no way. That was going to be a terrible burp, but I made sure to add some oomph to it, and it went to, like, passable, so I'll accept it. But Guitarja, again, they might add Indonesia. They've added them two civs in a row, and I don't think they're, like, that, like, I don't want to say important, but they're not, like, that well-known. It's not like Arabia, America, Greece, England, you know what I mean? It's not like in the player base of the Western market, it isn't too well known of a civ, and adding them 3 times in a row might happen, but even if they do, then it's probably not going to be Guitarja, it'll be someone else, because again, they do have another rich and storied history, so I do assume they're going to pick someone, maybe not as well known, but someone who was fairly effective in Indonesian history as a leader. Gorgo's next. Gorgo ain't no way. I highly doubt they had, like, 2 Greases again, just like they did in Civ 6. And Gorgo wasn't, I don't think she was necessarily a leader. I'm not sure what happened after Leonidas decided it was enough time spent butt-fucking the Persians and decided to, I guess, die afterwards. I don't know if she led Sparta after that, so I'm not really too sure, but I don't think she was an actual, like, leader in the sense that Catherine wasn't technically the leader of France, but she was, like, making the decisions. Whatever the case may be, I don't think she's, like, if they add Greece, they might add Leonidas in Civ 7. That'd be pretty neat. Hammurabi's next. I think Hammurabi's in the maybe one-hit wonder. They might add him because, again, he is a popular leader, but they'd probably add Nebuchadnezzar, I think his name is, the second. That's a pretty cool leader in Civ 5. Of course, if they had Babylon in Civ 7, I am highly expecting them to make him quite literally the best Civ, just like he was in Civ 6 and Civ 5. But I don't think they're going to add in Hammurabi if they do add in Babylon. They're probably going to add in a Viking type of civ. Harold Hardrada, I mean, his claim to fame was really just getting, how do I say this properly without getting demonetized? He got schlepped by the English, is what I have to say. So I don't think he's coming back in Civ 7. There's going to be a Viking Civ. I'd love them to add, like, the North Sea Empire and, like, Canute. That's probably the one they haven't done so far. If there's any, like, developer in watching right now, just you could take that. Like, that's something you should definitely do. The North Sea Empire was pretty cool, even though it lasted, like, about as much as the time between the last video and this video lasted. So there's that. Hojo Tokimun's not coming back. There's like 50 different Japanese leaders they can pick. He's probably Divine Intervention. The only reason he's a Divine Intervention is probably because the Civ is coming back. So, you know what? Nah, Divine Intervention. He's not coming back. Jadwiga's next. I genuinely think they're going to add Jadwiga in Civ 7 just because of how thirsty everyone is for. Hey, listen, I'm everybody, all right? I'm everybody if you threw them in the Sahara Desert for weeks on end, all right? I'll be one of them. In fact, I think she's coming back in Civ 7, and I think they're going to give her, like, the anime titty slide, in which the proportions are just like 80% titties, 15% booty, and just 5% everything else. That's what I think with Jadwiga. They probably had Poland. And I'd say they probably added Jadwiga, maybe as like a second type of leader if they decide to add that gimmick again. J.F. Armin's next. Kamai isn't coming back. I didn't know who the Kamai was. I don't think most people knew who the Kamai was. You know, let me know down in the comments if I'm wrong, of course. Like, I might just be an idiot and everyone knew who the Kamai was before, but I don't think it's a type of leader that you add into every game, if that makes sense. Zhao is next with Portugal. He's probably not coming back. They'll add in Portugal, but I don't think they'll add in Zhao II again, although they might. I think I'll put him in one-hit wonder just for that. Next up is John Curtin, Australia. There's been like 2 Australian leaders in world history. I think there's a probable likelihood, just because like Australia is like a fairly big market for Civ now, and Australia has about the same amount of leaders as you do fingers on one hand after getting your other Jaime Lannistered, and the other attacked by a dog or something in one of the Resident Evil games. That's about the number of good prime ministers they've had in Australia as far as I can tell. So John Curtin is an easy choice, honestly. Julius Caesar's book it. You could definitely book it. That is a marketable leader. That is the leader you could put on as the cover man for Civ 7, and instant 1 million copies sold right there. He's probably under Genghis in likelihood, but above Alexander. Again, the way I put them in this list doesn't really matter. It's just I wanted to have fun with like the book it side of the tier list. So this side will be the likelihood, I guess. So Genghis will be most likely, Elizabeth will be least likely in the S tier, but the others I don't want to spend the effort towards. Next up is Christina. It's funny because, like, every single Swedish person when Christina came out was genuinely, I thought, about to commit a terrorist act, a hostile act against Firaxis HQ, just because of the fact that they absolutely despised Christina. For those of you who don't know, Christina's claim to fame is pretty much taking the empire her dad built, and then just fucking off to Italy to watch plays and shit, as far as I know. But nobody liked her, not even the Swedes, so, I mean, there's, like, a lot of Swedish leaders you can pick in history. Christina's probably not one of them you want to go through again. Next up's Kublai Khan. Kublai Khan is probably a one-hit wonder. If you pick China, there's better leaders. If you pick Mongolia, you're probably going to pick Genghis. Although I could definitely see him leading one of those empires. Again, he's probably only here because of his gimmick of being able to lead 2 civs at once, like the Yuan Empire in China. Might be the Yuan Empire. I might have just played too much EU4 over the past week. Let me know if you want some EU4 gameplay on the channel. You know, fuck it, I'll probably post EU4 as my next video. But, that's probably why they picked Kublai. Don't think they're gonna pick him again, although it isn't, like, as unlikely as someone like Harold or Basil. I don't think they'll pick the Maui again, and because of that, I don't think the lead Coupe will come in. I think they'll pick the Mayans, but I don't think they'll pick, Lady Thick Thighs, just because of the fact that, again, there's a lot of other Mayan leaders, I think. Well, actually, no, there isn't. Yeah, there isn't too many Mayan leaders. Should probably go in the one-hit wonder tier then. Latoro's next. I don't think they picked the Mapuche again, and because of that, I think he's just going to be divine intervention. Like, even if they somehow pick the Mapuche, they'll pick someone other than Latoro. Ludwig is next. Ludwig is in the Ain't No Way tier. I mean, they made him so broken that they might put him in, like, Civilization 7 just to get more people to say, holy shit, he was strong in Civ 6. Now I'm gonna buy Civilization 7. Or something like that, so maybe. But aside from that, I think there's like so many other German leaders you could pick that it really doesn't matter. Mansa Musa next. I think Mansa Musa is a probable likelihood. I think they add Mali again. I'm not too sure. And I think Mansa Musa, just being the richest person in history, just has a lot of pull towards him. Especially after that epic Rap Battles of History video, which got like 10 million views. A lot of people probably know who Mansa Musa is, even before that. And because of that, I think they add in Mali just for the marketability factor. Matthias Corvinus of Hungary. I don't think Hungary gets added again. I wouldn't say it's impossible, and he definitely was probably the best leader Hungary's ever had, in my opinion, so if they do, he'll probably be picked, but I just don't think they'll add in Hungary again, and they could conceivably go for somebody else, I suppose, if they do decide to add in Hungary. Menelik is next for Ethiopia. Again, there's no way. They'll probably just add in Haile Selassie if they do add in Ethiopia in Civ 7, just because he's a much more well-known leader, even though Menelik is probably the best leader overall because he actually did beat the Italians. But again, they might not add in Ethiopia, although I doubt it at this point. I think Ethiopia is just like so large and so well-known at this point that probably add in Ethiopia, but I just think they'll add in Haile Selassie instead of Menelik. Montezuma, you could book it. Montezuma's coming back. Everybody knows who the Aztec are. The Aztec are a Native American civ. There really isn't too many options for a Native American civ just because of how little we know of them, and because of just, I guess, how little big Native American empires we knew about. Everybody knows about Columbus setting sail. Everybody knows about the Spanish conquest of the Aztecian lands after that, and because of that, a lot more people know about the Aztecs than other native empires, and everybody knows about Montezuma as opposed to other native leaders, and because of that, I think that's just easy. You could book it. He's going to be in Civ 7. I have no idea if the Congo are even going to be included, and like, if you put a gun to my head before Civ, like, even a year after Civ 6 came out, and said, who is, like, the leader of the Congo for Civ 6, I would have just told you to tell my family I love them, because even then I had no idea. Not exactly a wow factor of a leader, and not exactly a pull factor of a civilization, so I don't think they add in the Congo again, and I don't think they add in, I can't even remember his name right now. I'm not even trying to be funny. I completely forgot his name. Gawambimba. I know Gawambimba. I think it's I think it's the same thing. I don't think they add in the Congo. Don't think they add in the Congo, and because of that, I don't think she'll be a leader, although she's much more likely to be, instead of, Mvimba Nzinga. That's his name. Well, that's how his name is spelled. I most definitely butchered the shit out of that name, but, I don't think she is a lot more likely to be included, but I don't think the Congo are going to be included at all as a civ, though. Nader Shah, I think, ain't no way, just because of the fact that, like Cyrus, he was probably, there's a lot of Persian leaders, but I think Cyrus is a lot more likely than Nader Shah, for example. Pakacuti is next. I think Pakacuti is probably in the probable likelihood, just because of the fact that a lot of people know who the Incan Empire are, and unlike Lady Thick Thighs, or Six Guy, excuse me, a lot of people know who Pakacuti is before. Although, again, you know what? I think I'll put... I think there's, like, other Mayan leaders they could pick instead of Lady Thick Thigh. You could definitely make a case of putting her in the probable likelihood tier, though. But I think Pakacuti is probably coming back for Civ 7. Also, just to reiterate, or just to say, I don't think I said it before, this tier list is for overall Civ 7, including DLC. So, if you guys come back, like, 10 years from now, when they're still trying to come out with Civilization 7, and the first reveal trailer just launched, and they launched all the civs, and you're like, hey, they didn't include Gandhi, you absolute buffoon. Eat your shirt. I'll eat my shirt for sure, but again, this is just my opinion, of course. Next up is Pedro. The drip alone puts him right above Genghis. In all likelihood, I think he probably goes in the probable likelihood, top of probable likelihood, probably under 8. But I guess it does not matter for the A tier. Everyone knows who Brazil is, and everybody knows who Pedro II is, and because of that and what he did for Brazil and Portugal, I guess overall, I do believe that he is going to be included in Civ 7, but probably in a DLC. I don't think they include Brazil as a base Civ. Pericles is next. I'm gonna put One Hit Wonder. I mean, a lot of people know who Pericles is, but Athens never really technically had a leader, I guess, so if they're going to pick a Greek civ, they might pick someone like Leonidas, maybe pick someone like that everybody knows instead of... Everyone knows Pericles, but he was like a philosopher, not necessarily a leader. I'm not sure how Athens worked politically. I know it was like some sort of democracy, but so were the Romans technically under Augustus Caesar, although that was pretty much an all but name. Peter the Great's next. That mustache alone, that Wario villain mustachery is enough to put him in the S tier. I think we'll go back to Catherine the Great, though. Catherine's definitely an incredible leader for Russian history, and she is also a woman, so they'll probably like have her like as a bonus over Peter. And then I think also that because of the fact that a lot more people know who she is rather than Peter, and then also a lot more and then she was also not included in Civ 6, so having her in Civ, like, everything's going towards Catherine the Great. The only thing Peter has is that mustache, and that his moniker is literally the Great, but aside from that, I think Catherine has everything else that they'll include in Civilization 7. After that, we got, I am absolutely losing it today. I have no idea who this fucker is. The guy who looks like he'd steal your bitch. Goddamn, fucking Pedro Pascal if he had a long face. I don't fucking know. I don't think he's coming back. There's a lot of Spanish leaders, and because of that, I think that if they're gonna bring Spain back, but they'll give someone else the leader of Spain. Someone like Isabella was instrumental for Spain, and just like the exact same thing you did with Peter and Catherine the Great, you could do with Isabella, and this guy, she was she was most definitely a much better leader than he is, pretty much spawning the Castilian and Spanish Golden Age, and because of that, and all the other factors, I think she is more likely to be in Spain than he is. Next up is Poundmaker. Poundmaker's not coming back. If they pick another Native American civ, picking the Iroquois, who weren't included in Civ 6, makes a lot more sense. The Shoshone, maybe. I think the Cree could be included, but I don't think Poundmaker is going to be included if they do somehow include the Cree. Qin Shi Huang is next. He's probably there's like 500,000 Chinese leaders, almost as many as like 1% of the Chinese populace today. Because of that, I think they'll go with somebody else. Next up is Ramses. I think Ramses is one. Might make it. It might be one of the other Ramses who makes it. Might be one of the other Egyptians leaders. We know a lot about Egypt. They did have inscriptions and writing. Love to see Hatshepsut, I think is how you say her name, as a leader of Egypt. I don't think she's ever been a leader. She was like, she's who people think Cleopatra is. That makes any sense. She was actually a good leader overall, but yeah, at the end of the day, I think they'll probably pick Hatshepsut, if that makes sense. Definitely fits all the monikers, a better leader. Not as marketable, though, so I could see Ramses being hit in. But I think if it's between him and Cleopatra, they'll probably just pick Cleopatra again, just because, like, everybody knows who Cleopatra is. And then if you ask people who Ramses is, they'll probably say something like, oh yeah, I just saw him selling kebabs down the street, or something. Next up is Robert the Bruce. I don't think they include Scotland in the next game, but if they do, I think Robert the Bruce is a likely option. Because of that, I'll put One Hit Wonder just because of that. Saladin is next. Saladin, I think, is an easy bucket tier, just because of the fact it's an easy Arabian leader that the West knows about. Like, he probably wasn't like, he was a good leader, but he wasn't like SSS tier. He was like somebody like Dwight D. Eisenhower. He was a great leader, but there's like so many more leaders who were better than him. That again, I'm not trying to say he wasn't a good leader, but being Arab after all and knowing a lot about Arab history, he was definitely in like the A tier of leaders. He wasn't S tier, for example. But he is definitely the Arab leader that most people in the West know about, and because of that, I think you could book it. Another marketability factor, just like Gandhi, just like Alexander, just like Julius Caesar, he's definitely in that tier. I think he's a lot more likely to be included to everyone except for perhaps Gandhi. In fact, I think Gandhi's probably the top of this tier now that I think of. They're going to include Gandhi just for the memes. Sejong is next. I think there's ain't no way. Man, the Korean people definitely made a major fuss when it was revealed he wasn't the leader of Korea in Civ 6, so I think just because of that one-hit wonder, Korea's included, he'll probably be included, and I do think Korea will be included in Civilization 7. Speaking of which, Seon Diak, I think there ain't no way. I don't think there is any way. A lot of people didn't like her inclusion, and she was included already in Civ 6, but Korea is probably going to be in Civ 7, so I think just because of that, I'll put her in the ain't no way tier. Again, this guy, you can book it for, my brain's on power saver mode today, excuse me, on Shaka Zulu. I think he's more likely than Montezuma, but not as likely as... I don't think Elizabeth's as likely as either of these two, just because Victoria's there. Grand Colombia, I don't think they add him in, but if they do add them in, Simon Bolivar's an easy choice. So they're going to add in Mehmed II. If they add in, like... a leader, Suleiman the Magnificent, they added him in for like 2 Civ games now. If they have a Civilization 7 and they don't add in Mehmed, then one of the developers is without it. The person who makes the choices is without a doubt Constantinople. He probably has a goddamn Justinian-shaped dildo in his bed, or his or her bedroom. If they don't include Mehmed II in Civ 7, I think there's divine intervention to include Suleiman, especially when you consider that there's like, you could add in Osman the First, you can add like Murad II, you can add in a lot of people. And Suleiman in 2 games is already a divine intervention. You'd probably need God himself to come down and ordain Suleiman to be included in Civ 7. I don't know who the fuck this guy is. Like, it'll take me 20 more minutes just to figure out his name. If they include Mali, they're going to include Mansa Musa. Georgia, Tamar, maybe just for the memes and just make her absolutely atrocious for Civ 7, I could see, so maybe include her in the ain't no way tier. Teddy Roosevelt, I think, is a one-hit wonder just because of how many American leaders there are, and Civ 7's leader is probably going to be George Washington, or maybe even somebody like, I was going to say Ronald Reagan, but a lot of people really don't like him nowadays. Maybe somebody like Franklin D. Roosevelt. I think he's probably the front runner for leader in Civ 7, just because I don't think really anybody hates FDR. If you do, you're probably just stupid overall. I'm not too big of a political guy, but if you don't think FDR was like one of the top U.S. presidents, then you're probably just a dumbass, or maybe you just... I don't know, like, let him through World War II, Great Depression, like, what else do you want from him? So I think he's definitely going to be top tier, and is going to be included in Civ 7. Theodore, I think Theodore's probable likelihood is probably going to be her and Justinian. I think they'll have multiple leaders in Civ 7. They'll add in Byzantium, and it's going to be her and Justinian. I have no idea who this guy is, I'm going to be honest. If they're going to add in a Civ 7 leader, it might be Tokugawa. It's going to be the same exact thing as Hojo Tokimu. Not too many people know about these guys, unless I'm mistaken. If I am mistaken, he'll probably go in the one-hit wonder tier. Scythia's next. I think Scythia's a really easy Civ to add with Tamiris at its head. I think everything's just going for her, so I'll put her in probable likelihood. After that is Trajan. Trajan isn't being included in Civ 7. Like, you have the Caesars, you have like hundreds of Roman leaders. You could, well, maybe not hundreds, but you could have so many Roman leaders. Marcus Aurelius, I'm praying, as a leader in Civ 7. But I don't think Trajan was probably the best Roman emperor objectively, but I think there's so many others who have a lot more marketability factors that I really don't think he'll be included 2 civs in a row. Well, I mean, unless they have like a radio mini game in Civ 7, they won't be included. Again, I might be wrong, but I think she just like left when the Nazis invaded and just like pretty much spread resistance efforts throughout the radio from like London or something. I could be wrong, of course. I'm not well versed in Dutch World War II. Well, I kind of am. They lost in like a few weeks, I think, but again, it's like adding in somebody like whoever the leader of France was right before Hitler walked through them. But again, I really don't think she'll be included, and if they add in a Dutch leader, there are multiple others to pick from. Wilfrid Laurier, I don't think Canada gets picked in Civ 7. Actually, they might, just because of how big the market is there, considering it's in like the Western market and the English-speaking market, I think is what a lot of people like in Civ. Because of that, I think it's going to be in the 8 and away tier, because they'll probably add in John A. Macdonald. I do know about Canadian history. They could add in the leader of World War II, Mackenzie King. They could add in a lot more leaders. I think Wilfrid Laurier was probably just to sort of like have like a Quebec as well as rest of Canada, because everyone in Canada, even Quebec, likes Wilfrid Laurier, because he was like partly French, which again, that fact alone should probably have him barred from being in Civilization in general. But again, I think we can overlook it and say that he probably isn't going to make it in Civ 7, not because he's French, even though that probably should play a big part, because of the fact there's like other leaders they could pick from that would probably generate a lot more sales and marketability in Civ 7. Wu Zetian's probably going to be included. I'll put her in One Hit Wonder just because of how many Chinese civs there are. She was included in 6, she was included in 5, she's probably going to be included in, she might be included in 7. And then finally, Yongle. I'll put Yongle in the 8 and away tier just because of the fact the most likely out of all the Chinese leaders in Civ 6 to be in Civ 7 is Wu Zetian, just because of like she was in Civ 5 and Civ 6 now, so I'm assuming, I don't know, again, not well versed in Chinese history, but I do think that she's probably like been a great leader considering the fact that she's been in both Civ games right now, and a lot of people like really like her. I've seen on Reddit like a lot of Chinese people like what she did as a leader. I think, of course, not the CCP. Of course, if it was up to the CCP, it would be Mao Zedong. The second leader would be like Xi Jinping or something. But in any case, that's my tier list of who I think is most likely to make it into Civilization 7. If you agree, fantastic. If you don't agree, let me know down below who you wouldn't agree with. And without further ado, I'll see you all next time. Peace.